Hi, I'm Bob Trask. We're going to talk today about conversations between the heart and the brain. Actual conversations that go on between the heart and the brain. You might ask yourself, why should I be interested in that? Why would that be important to me? Everything that we're talking about in this weekly reset, everything in one way or the other is about consciousness. That's all there is consciousness. I mean, there isn't anything else. And if you really think about it, everything is consciousness, everything that's living. And we think of living things as being humans and dogs and cats and fish and those things, but everything that's living is a being. Like a tree is a being because it's living. And what life is consciousness. And so the tree's conscious. Everything's conscious. Everything's part of great um, a great fabric of consciousness. And you know that. You know that in your life, everything is. But today I want to bring it more aware to us because in the conversations between the heart and the brain relay a certain kind of consciousness within us as human beings that we otherwise don't pay attention to. We start bombing along through life, doing our little duties and duties and duties. And all we think about is doing, doing, doing. And we forget about being. But being is the inception of doing. Being is being is where we begin the doing. So if we're not being totally who we are, then the doing is not going to be very good. And being totally who we are means that all the consciousness within ourselves, and we came into this incarnation, whatever your belief system is, we came into these bodies and this place on planet Earth, living here in these bodies for a reason. And the tools for those to be accomplished are all within our bodies. It's all within our bodies. So our heart, the heart, that's a beautiful, beautiful muscle in the center of your chest, about the size of your fists. And it just beats and beats and beats. And there's four chambers in the heart, as you well know. And they send blood to the lungs, and then from the lungs to the rest of the body, and then back to the heart. It's just a magnificent instrument, and so powerful and so strong. But what most people don't know is that the heart also has a mind, a separate mind from the brain, its own mind. And the brain is unique in that it has these neurons, these nerve cells, and between the nerve cells, there's these little gaps called synaptic gaps, and there's a little firing across those gaps. And what's firing across those gaps, we could call wisdom or information or impulses of of emotion even. But in the heart, but the in the brain is an incredibly powerful computer. God, I could go on and on about the brain. The brain, and we have with us here today Rick Robertson, who is a, a doctor and brain scientist and nerve scientist, neuropsychology, and he's taught me so much. And in learning from him, what I've come to realize is that probably in this entire universe and maybe beyond, there's no other organ quite as complex or as miraculous as the brain. It's just as amazing, amazing, amazing. However, the brain doesn't feel things. In fact, physically, it doesn't even have any sensation. You could poke on the brain and it doesn't feel anything, but it also doesn't feel anything emotionally. Everything that you become aware of that's emotion is a message that comes up from the heart to the brain. The heart sends, the heart also has neurons, also has these synaptic gaps, and it sends messages up to what? Sends messages up to the brain. So when you say, God, I think I'm really feeling crummy today. That's an intellectual thing. I'm feeling crummy, but that message came from your heart. Your heart is the center of consciousness within you. It's the center of consciousness. And consciousness is all there is. Everything that you do, everything that I do, everything we think, everything we eat, everything we smell, everything we taste, everything we hear, everything we touch, everything, all of that is consciousness. All of it comes back into our bodies and it resonates in certain ways within us to give us consciousness that we belong, that we're a part of this world. But physiologists are aware that we have more than one way of viewing reality. And each of them, those separate ways of viewing reality, they're all accurate. We view realities through the filters of the brain and the heart and the gut. What we know now is that consciousness is vastly more than any of these, or even the combination of them. The brain is perhaps the most miraculous, as I said, organ in any universe ever, but unless it gets information from the heart mind, it's merely a cool and unconcerned calculator. And today we're going to talk about that mind that dwells in your marvelous heart. This mind is the home of creativity, of compassion, and even of communication. The heart allows us to imagine, to imagine. Van Gogh was such a master of the imagination. What am I seeing? What am I feeling? How is that? Now the brain would look at a sunflower and say, this is a sunflower, and it's shaped like this, and it's like this. And you look at the stars at night and say, these are the stars at night. But when Van Gogh looked at those, he allowed himself to be free from just his intellectual construct, and he imagined. And so he made paintings of what he saw, and that starry night or sunflowers just are famous because he painted from the heart. And the heart allows us to imagine. It allows us to see beauty. So today, let's see what we can discover about this wise and happy muscle and how to expand its influence in our lives. Famous psychologist Carl Jung said, your vision will become clear only when you can look into your own heart. Who looks outside dreams, who looks inside awakes. So do you ever feel a deep need inside of you to express, to find out, to find somebody who can really hear what you're saying? Then you're communicating with your heart. And if somebody's not listening, or if they keep misunderstanding you, or if they keep intellectualizing what you're trying to you're trying to explain or express your passion, and they just keep intellectualizing that, then you know that what they keep coming back with is something that doesn't work. Like you're saying, you know, I saw a dog today get hit by a car, and it just haunts me. It just haunts me. I mean, he went off the side of the road, and you go on talking about this, and this guy says, "Well, dogs get hit by cars. I mean, that happens all the time. You know, that's just one of the things. You're going to keep your dog in your yard to keep them." So this person's going into their brain mind, and you're coming from your heart mind, and they're not hearing you at all. They think you're talking about a dog got hit by a car. You're talking about the incredible passion that's going on in your heart. So there's a disconnect, isn't there? There's a disconnect, and that's part of what we're talking about today. And when you're in your heart, and just think with me now, just be in your heart right now as we're doing this conversation. When you're in your heart, you're inventive. You've probably thought of ways that God, I could put this together with that, and this. Where did that come from? That's the inventive part of you, the creative and inventive, creative, innovative way that your heart is. And those three qualities, inventive, creative, and innovative, those are found only in your heart. If you're going to be creative, in your life, you must do it from your heart. Now, once again, I'm not discounting the brain, because those messages go to the brain and the brain sorts them out and makes sense of them. It's like the heart is a great musician and wants to make um, a great recording of music that they've created, that they've invented, that they can play with such soul and such purpose. But there's a technician in a studio who can make that happen on tape that the musician can't do. And that's the brain. The brain makes things happen. But if you're going to create in your life, you must do it from your heart. World famous artist Marc Chagall said, if I create from the heart, nearly everything works. If from the head, almost nothing. Our brains are precious. We wouldn't be alive without them. But we're not primary intellects. We're primarily intuitive and imaginative. And when we align those heart mind things with our intellectual genius, wow, man, wonderful things happen. And until those two are entwined, our lives have little meaning and little purpose. Therefore, we must be balanced intellectually, psychologically, and emotionally. Let's face it, we're taught from grades 1 or kindergarten through 12, or maybe for some people go to school for 20 years. If they're only focusing on their intellectual competence, then they steer their intellectually excellent ships of life, excellent education, excellent ships of life, and they steer them out into life without a compass. Our hearts are our compasses. Without them, life has no true direction and no meaning. And this is important for us to consider. As creatures of habit, excuse me, we recycle 95% of the same viewpoints every day. 95% of the same viewpoints that I had yesterday and the day before and the day before and the day before, I'll have today and tomorrow and the next day. And what those viewpoints, those are my beliefs. I belong to this political party. I believe in this political leader. I go to this church. I believe in this deity. I believe in Buddha. I believe in Jesus. I believe in Lao Tzu. I'm an atheist, or I'm an agnostic, and those are viewpoints. Those are viewpoints, and they identify us. And we think I'm a Catholic, or I'm a Protestant, or I'm an atheist, or I'm a Buddhist, or I'm an agnostic, and I stand on those are my principles. Those are who I think I am. And those viewpoints then become us, and they limit us. They lock us into these little jails of opinion and of belief. So we have those same viewpoints every day, and we do that because that's safe. But how about being unsafe? How about taking a risk? So we get used to that security, but it's not living. It's not growing. It's not thrilling. Let's allow our hearts to be free, to give us new views of reality, so our hearts are filled with the thrills of newness, of new colors, new tones, new meaning. Let us become humans, complete humans, not informative computers. This idea of letting your heart be your guide will enhance every area of your life, even in business. Thomas Watson, chairman and CEO of IBM, said, to be successful, you have to have your heart in your business and your business in your heart. That's Thomas Watson. That's the CEO and chairman of International Business Machines, IBM, talking about being in your heart. That's how he ran his business. Here's a little story of the heart joining with the brain. So I took a group of people, wonderful, wonderful people. I don't remember how many, 10 or 15 people, and, in the middle of winter to Crater Lake in Oregon. And at Crater Lake in the middle of winter, the snow is 30 or 40 feet deep. And so we rented these little cabins and and we lived in these little cabins for that week or so. And we had a wonderful time together, and we went through processes and consciousness and spirituality and meditated and had meetings and lectures and but we also did a ton of outdoor stuff, and it was just great. We'd bundle all up and we'd go out, and everybody had cross country skis. So we went to this hill, and there's a long slope, fairly steep, but not too steep, that went down this hill for a ways and then into a little meadow. And the challenge was, can you put on your skis at the top of the hill and slide always all the way to the bottom and out onto the meadow without falling down? And everybody got it. And after a while, of course, we kept doing that and doing that. And after a while, we had kind of a ski run, so it was pretty fast and pretty good. But everybody that went down got down about a halfway or three-quarters of the way, and then they tippled over into the snow and laid there just frustrated. And they'd get back up and trudge back up to the top of the hill and get their skis back on. And every time they'd fall off their skis, every time. So when they stopped to rest, I got them all together and I asked them to share their frustration. What was going on? How come they weren't making it all the way? Each one of them said that as their speed increased, what also increased was their self-doubt. Their self-doubt was about them in life. It was about them in life. It was about how they dealt with their relationships, how they dealt with their businesses, how they dealt with their jobs, how they dealt with every part of their life. They reached a limit in every part of their life, and they couldn't go beyond that because the self-doubt, their old unworthiness or their teachings when they were kids or whatever came up. And you and I have that. We all have that self-doubt. It limits us. It limits our abilities. And most of us see that as a wall. And when we come up against that wall, we say, I'm not going any farther in this direction because I just can't. The wall says you can't. And they say, right, I can't. But when we sat and talked for a while, they all realized that self-doubt limited their life. If they'd been doing okay going down the hill, they were well balanced and enjoying the run until self-doubt took over, and then they collapsed into the snow. We do fine in the beginning of any venture. And then the brain becomes involved and says, hold on, we've never done this before. And I don't think we know how to do this. Then our self-doubt stops us. But how do we go beyond that? We go into an area that we don't know. We go beyond our confidence. We go into an area that's brand new to us, and that's called growth. That's expanding our consciousness. So let's take some risks. Let's dare to go out of our thinking minds and be in our hearts and see what happens. Let our hearts guide us. Let our hearts lead us. Let our hearts take us where we want to go. Van Gogh said, I put my heart and my soul into my work. I put my heart and my soul into my work. And when the folks at Mount Shasta moved their consciousness from their brains to their hearts, they started laughing. They were having fun and not thinking, and it became heart focused, and they made it down the hill again and again. So the brain is objectively analytic, whereas the heart is the home of passion. And passion is essential to our overall health, isn't it? It's essential to our well-being. It's a very important part of who we are. Laughter, passion, love, creativity. surprise, great humor, watching people who are funny, really funny, and laughing and feeling that laughter come up from inside of you. That's your heart. Have you ever been distraught over something like the dog and someone thinking objectively told you to just get over it? They're asking you to get out of your heart and start thinking with your brain. And sometimes we need to do that because sometimes we need to have our brain say, this is not the path I want to continue. I've been mourning over the death of my love or my dog or my cat I've been mourning over the loss of my job or my business. I've been mourning over the loss of my home or whatever. And I've been mourning for all long. And the brain sometimes needs to say, this is baloney now. Let's stop. Let's not go any farther with this. Let's create a new paradigm. So the heart needs the brain, but the brain definitely also needs the heart. Our brains are our main source of intelligence. Our hearts are our main source of wisdom. And let's pay equal attention to the two of them because together they make us vibrant and complete persons. So today we're talking about the heart and how powerful the heart is. And if you really think about it, if I think about it, then what I'm thinking, when I'm thinking, the information that's coming to me is coming from my heart. I've been in seminars where I was saying, somebody was saying to me, my dad died when I was 8 years old. And I said, how'd you feel about that? Well, people die. My dad was a heavy smoker, and he was a heavy drinker, and he had a heart attack and died. That's not so unusual. And I said, that's not what I asked you. I asked you how you felt about it. Well, how does anybody feel about it? I mean, I was a kid, so if a kid loses their dad, of course they're. No, no, I'm not asking for explanations. I want to know how you felt. And see, for some people, it's hard to get there. It's hard to say, whew, let me just go back there. God, I was shocked. I was surprised. I was hurt. I felt like I was going to die. Those are feel. How'd you feel? So right now, if I ask you, what's the worst thing that ever happened to you in your life? Will you intellectualize that if you explain it to me? Or will you really tell me the feelings? You need to be the music of your soul. The music that was Van Gogh. That was Van Gogh. That was Beethoven. That was the Beatles. That was all the great musicians. That were all the great artists. That was Rodin with his sculptures. That was Michelangelo with David and with the Pieta. They were expressing from their heart something they couldn't even explain with their brain. Michelangelo was fond of saying that I don't carve a statue. The statue's already inside of there. I just can't take the rock away that's on the outside of that. He feels that. He feels David. He feels the Pieta. He feels that. Leonardo da Vinci, one of the greatest artists ever, talked about his intuition and his heart, and that everything he created was from there. So we are creators. That's what we came here to do. We didn't come here to walk around like Ottomans. We came here to create something new, because you are the only person that's ever lived that is you. Only you can create what you can create. Only I can create what I can create. No one else can create what Bob Trask can create. Nobody. Never, never, ever. Nobody can ever create what you can create. Not ever. But the question is, am I creating today? Are you creating today? Or are we just reliving our same viewpoints, opinions, ideas, day by day, 95%. The majority of people, 95%, the same today, the same yesterday, same day before, same tomorrow, 95%. And Oscar Hammerstein, this great musician, great composer, wrote, "A bell is not a bell until you ring it. A song is not a song until you sing it. Love in your heart wasn't put there to stay. Love isn't love till you give it away." God, that's so beautiful. So perfect about what we're talking today. A bell's not a bell till you ring it. A song's not a song till you sing it. Love in your heart wasn't put there to stay. Love isn't love till you give it away. And finally, today, let me quote the famous Ludwig van Beethoven, one of the greats of all times. Great musician, great composer, was deaf in the last part of his life, was stone deaf, and wrote some of the most beautiful music imaginable. How could you write music if you're deaf? It came from his heart. He wasn't, listen to me, he wasn't writing it. He was just interpreting it. It was welling up from his heart, already whole and complete. He didn't have to put it together. It was whole and complete. And then he just stuck it in the places where it was supposed to be on the sheet. And here's a great quote about the heart from Beethoven. He said, "Only the pure in heart can make a good soup." Thank you, Beethoven. But he's absolutely right. Only the pure in heart can make a good soup. So let's go out this week and make a good soup of our lives with all the ingredients that we've not been willing to, not dared to share up until now. Let's dare to share them. Let's make something magnificent happen with our lives this week. Let's open doors that we've had closed for a long time. In fact, we probably just think there's a wall there. We don't even realize there's a door. Let's open those doors. Take some risks. Ask our heart, what do you want to do? And then let it go. Go today with my love. Oh, and stop by my website, bobtrask.com, if you will, and leave a donation. If you don't stop by my website and leave a donation, a guy, tall, muscular guy with a bent nose is going to come and knock on your door. If you don't if you don't go leave a donation, it's okay. I love you anyway. Thank you for being with me. Be well, and I'll see you next week.